So welcome everyone. Like I said, happy Monday. I know it's been it's a little bit of an early well, it's not early here. It's early for me. I am not a morning person. I'm an afternoon person. So my energy's just rising. But I'm Laura Manley. I'm the administrative specialist here at Episcopal Parish Network. We'll talk about my title later. And Episcopal Parish Network is where the church gathers. And we're so happy to welcome all of you to this workshop on the role of administrative support staff in the Episcopal Church and all the nonprofits also associated with the Episcopal Church. I just have a couple procedural things before I turn everything over to our panel, which is me and Meg. So first, we're being recorded. You'll receive an email with a link to the recording and any additional materials that we provide within a day or two afterwards. Takes up to 48 hours. It depends on how nicely my editing software is being. Also, we don't have the Q&A function enabled on Zoom, so please put any questions or comments that you have in the chat. We will be printing the chat out and also making that available along with the recording. So you'll be able to see what the questions were, if anyone shared any resources, all of that will be in the chat. So as we get started, normally this is where I turn over to the host on our panel. I'm the host on our panel, which I think is kind of fitting because we're talking about the roles of administrators in the Episcopal Church and its nonprofit organizations. And as most of us know, we do a lot of different things, and sometimes we have to code switch between our host job and our panel job, for example, or our receptionist job and our event planning job. So like I said, I'm the administrative specialist here at EPN. I have had that title for a whole 2 weeks. We could not come up with a title that works for Joe Swimmer, who's the executive director here, and myself, that covered all my jobs. So sometimes you'll see me listed under different titles. I've also worked within the Episcopal Church on their administrative staff in a parish that has about 450 at the time on a Sunday. We had an annual budget of about 2.5 million. And a staff of 2 full-time clergy, 3 part-time clergy, and 10 administrative and support staff, including, sextons and communication people, reception, and everything else. While I was there, at some point, I was one or all 3 of these. I was the outreach coordinator, the stewardship coordinator, and the pastoral care coordinator. All 3 are now full-time jobs or are run by a committee at that church. So after I left that position, I got replaced by up to 30 people, which shows how much a lot of us have to do during a day. And then before joining the staff at that church, I was also the head of the outreach committee, and I was on the vestry, and I was the occasional lay preacher. So I was very embedded into the Episcopal Church, and I loved every minute of it, and because I love learning things. Before this, I homeschooled 4 children for 20 years. I've worked as a librarian, a photographer, a nanny, an author, an editor, you name it, I've probably done it. At some point, I just love learning things. And so this is a great job for me because, like I said, a lot of us have multiple things that we're doing in our roles. A lot of us have, one title, but many jobs. And I love it. I love everything about it. I love being able to learn new things. So, and I know Meg's story is very similar in the, one title, many roles department. So Meg, go ahead and introduce yourself for me.
Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Meg Ruffing. I am the executive assistant at the Episcopal Preaching Foundation, located in Springfield, New Jersey. Some of you might have heard it because maybe your rector or someone else, or maybe a lay preaching program, someone's going through EPS program, or hey, maybe some of you are PEP alums. Raise your hand if you're a PEP alum. But it's mainly clergy, so I'm not
Yeah.
really surprised. But again, so like I said as well too, so like I came here about 7 years ago. I originally was just supposed to be an assistant and a marketing person when I don't really know most about marketing, but hey, title. But then as EPF was growing since 2018, there's more programs and more stuff going on. So my role became like more bigger, assisting more people, more board members, more program managers, and all that stuff as well too. So that's why they have me as an executive assistant. My history path in general is always just administration in general, but EPF was that place here that just enhanced all my skills, making me like a really true EA in a way, like in a like where the organization really needs to lean on me, or out like we'll go into this more, but the organization really did rely on me. Those have been my past experiences. Yeah, and then I've had retail jobs when I was younger. I love fashion, so I worked in the Gap at one point, coffee, Starbucks. By the way, it is true if you are not nice to your barista, they will give you decaf. So that's a little side note. Oh, Q&A as well too. But pretty much what happened was I love learning more. I enjoy learning more. I don't care if I am the Michael Jordan of basketball or whatever. I love to learn more about my field and everything else too. And then uh, how Laura and I got together, and we're like, okay, well, maybe some people. So this is what it is. It's just a great way for me to learn more and also not only that too, but share my knowledge to all of you guys, just in case, maybe or you can share with me. It's just something like nice in the way of networking, which will go on later on. So, yeah, that's pretty much for me right now. So too, but then um, let's go to the next slide. So, what is the definition of administration? Now, if you want to be old school, and you kind of just want to look it up, her Webster Dictionary is performs the executive duties or a body of persons to administer. Okay. I mean, basic English. But if you want to go to basic English, administrator is the engine that makes the organization go. So please note that no matter what your title is and everything else too, you are the reason this organization, your parish or whatever is going. And and we all thank you, and we all want to thank you all in general for being the administrator or keeping us all together here. Um, and then Laura's going to go over a little more about different definitions of admin as well.
Huh, thanks, Meg. So, in this series, there are going to be three workshops in this series. Today's kind of an intro and a flyover. There's going to be a lot of information, and we apologize that there's a lot of information, but it's just to kind of set a foundation. We're going to go deeper in the next two also, but we're focusing on the support staff. A lot of times when you hear administrator, especially in a church context, you're thinking the parish administrator. There is nothing wrong with the parish administrator, and we hope there are parish admins here because one of the parish admin's jobs is HR and filling those roles for that support staff and the admin staff. But our focus is going to be more on the support staff and not as much on the parish administrator or management staff. As Meg pointed out, I mean, we both work for nonprofits, not parishes currently, but we're not talking about the executive director. We're talking about their executive assistants or their social media people or whatever. So we're talking at that level. The thing is, whoever we're talking about in that context, we do have different roles, right? But we have the same goal. So the parish administrator, the executive director, the rector, whoever you have, kind of in that administrative level of your organization or your parish, um, they're they're doing the work of kind of creating the image and the form and the goal of where they want the machine, so to speak, of their church or their organization or their what have you to go. They are the ones who are going to do a lot of the discernment about, are we following Christ's model in going forward in this organization? Um, it's not that we're not asking that question. We're just asking it on more of a micro level. We're that we're that engine in the machine that's making it go. We're the ones who are making sure that the little things get done. The gas gets put in the tank for the car, the oil gets changed, the whatever. So, I am very happy that I have this EPN car that I'm a part of. And I am also very glad that Joe Swimmer, our executive director, is the one steering it, making the contacts, planning out the route, and doing all of that. Because what I love to do, and what he, I hope, he's told me this, so, but appreciates, I don't like take compliments very well, appreciates my doing is doing those small things, putting the gas in the car, right? Making the appointments, managing the schedule, um, planning out the workshops and making sure everyone gets their emails, and you all will get your recordings after, that type of a thing. So it's not that we're downplaying our administrators, parish admins, executive directors, our boards, our vestries, not at all. I love working with my board, I love working with my executive director. We just all have different jobs. And a lot of times when someone looks at an organization, they are looking at, excuse me, they are looking at the name of the organization. They're looking at the logo. They're looking at the building. They're looking at the plan that they have. They're not looking at what's happening underneath to make that plan move. So, Meg, did you want to change the slide for me? Um, yeah. So Meg's going to talk about kind of what everyone sees versus what everybody does. In the meantime, if while you're listening to Meg, go ahead in the chat and put in, a lot of you put your titles in already. Kind of give some ideas of the tasks that you do also that fall under that title. Because I'm kind of curious to see, how many people have different titles, but they do similar tasks, where they have the same title, but they do completely different tasks. So go ahead, Meg. Meg, go ahead and talk to us about the ice.
So this is pretty much what I wanted to as well too, because let's face it, like, you ever see those memes like years ago saying what people think I do, what my mother thinks I do, whatever thinks I do, what I actually do. This is kind of one of those things. But this is one of the things I think, like, outside people that are not in administration do see. So what do they mainly see is the top of the iceberg, which is just mainly calendar management, follow-up emails, maybe a quick hi here and there. So that's all they see. But come on, let's face it, we're all together here. Okay, that's not just what we do. Hence, why we're going to go beyond the iceberg. Crisis prevention and firefighting. I don't know about the firefighting part, but crisis prevention definitely yes as well. So we've had, I'm sure most of us had to do some kind of crisis prevention. We're a gatekeeper as well too. We're always cross communicating with the teams as well to making sure everything's running smoothly. Project managing, I know that's some of yours responsibilities as well too. Leadership support, I definitely can see as well too. Please excuse me, I'm sorry. Um, but yes, leadership support as well too. So not only are you supporting your leader, your whatever, you're kind of like the backup person for that person as well too, saying what would the rector think if I did this and this and this, and you're kind of in their head, and you're like, I can see it going these certain ways as well too. And again, another thing I see on here as well too is Operation Glue. I mean, operational glue, you definitely are the glue to the operation as well too. Like I said earlier, the organization cannot run without you. But this is just pretty much just a little basic thing of a good example of when people say what you do and what you actually do. This is a very good example of the things that people do not see. And then and the reason why I put that there is I want you guys to like be like, wow, I really do that much. And yeah, and you're doing a great job, to be honest. Well, too, you're doing a good job. So that's the reason why I put that back up there. Let's see, next slide. Where's Laura?
It helps if I unmute myself because I was laughing at the cat. I didn't want everyone to hear me.
Oh, he just escaped and came up here. I'm like,
Yeah, it happens. So the reality of new virtual offices. So I'm looking at what everybody is posting in the chat. So I mean, it's everywhere, right? And especially
yeah,
one thing is the smaller the parish or the smaller the organization, the more things that fall under your job title. Um, oh goodness, yeah, we just Caroline has two she's a parish administrator but supporting two different rectors. Um,
um,
yep, dealing with homeless, yep, unhoused. I did the same. Right, going from doing bulletins and social media to assisting with bookkeeping, all in one job. That was Andrew, also parish administrator. Right. Let's see. I'm just trying to look around here. A lot of service bulletins. A lot of putting service. Those things take a lot of time. I remember our bulletin meetings. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, there's a lot of bulletins and scheduling and serving on Sundays. That's the other thing a lot of times you don't think about with a church. You think, oh, that, there's office staff. So they work in the office 9 to 5. No, a lot of times we're in the office 9 to 5. And then at church on Sunday, even if technically you're not on the clock, if you attend that church, which is what I did, I don't necessarily recommend that, but if you attend the church you work at, you're on the clock. It doesn't matter if you're the lay reader that day or if you're working altar guild. Someone's going to come up and say, "Did you get my pledge check? Did you advertise my event? How come my picture isn't in there, but so and so's picture is in this flyer?" It's going to happen. Plus emergencies, there's a car accident out front. Can someone call whoever? That's happened to me a couple times too. So that's a lot. And one thing I do want to say before I continue, and I meant to say this early, Meg and I are both Jersey girls and we tend to talk kind of fast. So let me know if you need me to slow down. Um, I try to be very conscious of it, but especially if Meg and I are doing a back and forth, suddenly all that Jersey comes out and we're off. So let us know if we need to slow down at any point. But anyway, but one thing I'm noticing, like with the monthly scheduling, weekly scheduling, bill payments, things like that, a lot of these jobs are falling into three main categories. So the first category would be time management and prioritization, right? That's going to be calendars, highlighting an important email that comes in so that your executive director or your rector sees it first thing in the morning, as opposed to later in the day when they're just running through their email box. It's going to be scheduling. I saw someone who does grounds maintenance scheduling, even the bulletin scheduling, right? You've got to schedule stuff with the printer. You've got to schedule people to put the bulletins together for you if you have inserts and those types of things. Um, Scheduling lay readers, ushers, security if you have a security detail at the church, scheduling flights, scheduling hotel rooms for your board meeting, scheduling hotel rooms for your annual conference. I know Meg and I both do that kind of stuff. So that's the type of scheduling, prioritizing, your time managing, and you're not just time managing yourself, you're often time managing other people. You're maintaining a rector's calendar. You're maintaining a volunteer calendar. You're maintaining the calendar of volunteers who are out working with, the homeless or the unhoused who are coming and using, like, we had a time when unhoused could come and charge their cell phones because we didn't have meetings at certain times, so people could come in, charge their cell phones, get a bottle of water, that type of thing. Um, So that's going to fall kind of in that. And a lot of these are going to overlap. So if I mention something in one area, it doesn't mean it doesn't fall into another area. There's a lot of overlap, like with communication and interpersonal skills, right? When I talked about shooting those emails up the chain, that's time management, but it's also communication because you're communicating with your rector or your administrator or what have you, your board. But these are a lot of this communication, interpersonal skills are kind of what we think about in addition to the calendars when we're talking about like an executive assistant. Emails, phone calls, mailings, Zoom meetings. For me, it's a lot of workshops and webinars. Um, making sure that people have what they need to go into their board meeting, making sure that the rector has what he needs to make his hospital visits or her hospital visits. It was a male rector in my case, that's why I default to he, but I know he or she. Um, and the other thing with communication is, and working with a church or a nonprofit, especially if you're working in a lot of financial or you're working with a lot of like personal care, you're providing funds for, say, emergencies, like housing emergencies, food emergencies, and whatever. You have to also know what not to say. There's a lot of confidentiality going on, right? You can't, if someone calls the church and says, I really need to have a a meeting with the rector right now, or can I call the rector? Handing out their cell phone number, not a good idea. I know this because I did that once by accident. But it's not a good idea. When I worked for outreach and I worked with a lot of unhoused, I worked with a lot of job seekers, I worked with a lot of food banks. One thing I did was I got myself a Google phone number so that I wasn't handing out my personal cell number to people. Um, and a lot of our rectors had the same. They would have a Google number so they could hand that out. So they could still use their personal cell phone, but they didn't have to hand out their personal number, and they knew that it was work related when it came through that number. Um, and the last thing that I've noticed a lot of things fall under are general administration, organizational skills, keeping the files in order, making sure who needs to have access to a file has access to that file, and that they're in a logical order and a logical place. I've been in this position here at EPN for a year, and the previous person in my role was very good at her role. I don't understand her organizational system at all. It didn't work for me. So the first question I always ask when I start a new job is why? Why is this system set up this way? Is it because it worked for her? Because it worked for the executive director? It worked for the board? Who else is accessing these that needs to have this in this order? Um, and I was able to change some things and other things I wasn't because some other people need access to that information, and that's a process that works for that person. So, um, and we're going to talk. I saw a question actually. We're going to have question and answer at the end, but we are going to be answering this question. So I just wanted to address it. That Krista asks of, are there any tools or tricks that have really saved you time with scheduling or communication to free up more time for other duties? We're going to talk about that. We're actually going to talk about that right now because Meg is going to talk about some tools and some tricks. You like my transitions? I'm good at those. We're going to talk about some tools and tricks that are available, and then and Meg's also, I think, going to talk a little bit about an upcoming workshop we have that's going to delve even deeper into this topic. But go ahead, Meg.
So yeah, so I saw that question. I kind of like we will discuss about that as well too. And then I'm also doing it for a broad spectrum because every person's job might or might not need certain tools. So let's first start with pretty much of what everyone needs: cloud storage. So either some people using the Google Workspace or the Microsoft 365. Those are two programs that we use that are mainly used around. And there's some organizations like mine that like to use both for extra security. And then, again, there's also the email, the e-blast campaigns and everything else too. So obviously we have the two um, companies right there, the MailChimp and the Constant Contact as well too. Um, Now, welcome to 2025, where we're now up to AI. So there's a couple of AI companies that you might be using ChatGPT to help you with an email. Gemini is Google owned and Copilot is Microsoft owned. And Canva, as we know, does the beautiful flyers and business cards or whatever. Another thing that we do as administrators as well too is communications, like web communications, Zoom, whatever. But again, there's a competition for everything. So not only is there Zoom, there's Google Meets, and then there's also Microsoft Teams as well too that are some people are using. I've noticed. And another thing as well too is, especially if you're dealing with donors, we have something called CRM, a customer relationship management thing. So you either have Salesforce or Little Green Light or maybe another company that keeps track of whoever has interacted or donated with you, and you have all their information for that as well too. And then you can take the information that you want with it. Like for example, if we have someone that signed up and they gave us actually their ordination date, we will send an email saying happy ordination to you. Joe Smith, you will do that. Some more, some CRMs are really great at that. And then there's some for people who are doing the project management as well too. The three popular ones are Trello, Asana, Monday. Those are the programs that I know, and I spoke with Laura about, and she said that those are our three really, really big programs that she uses to help her with the project management. My job in general is also, if some of you know me or know about me, is to get people together to talk, and especially with Peter. So my old time favorite is Doodle. Not only can you do one-on-one booking, but you can also do like group booking, like a poll saying who's available when. So there's that. And then, of course, the one and the only Adobe. Yes, no matter what, Adobe PDF, Adobe Acrobat, Adobe Web Thing, Photoshop, whatever. Adobe is a big, big program. It doesn't really matter where your job is. I guarantee you at least use Adobe PDF at your job. And again, like I said, we're going to have another webinar coming up. I think this one's going to be in August. Don't remember the day, but it'll be in August, where we go over a little bit more in more details about that as well too. So, okay. And then, like I said, so another thing I want to focus on is something that happened to me recently, and it's called burnout. How many of you recognize you in these pictures? Because the girl on top is definitely me. Okay, a couple times. So how does one person, admin like us, especially if we're in a very small parish or organization, but we feel like we take on the world. How do we deal with this burnout? And really, it's just like a couple of steps. One is just to recognize the signs. Are you emotionally exhausted? You feel attachment or your performance not well? I mean, that's definitely a good sign that you're kind of like a burnout there too. Another one too is your self-care. Are you sleeping okay? Hydration. Are you drinking water? Like here's my bottle of water. I making sure that same movemental nutrition and all that stuff too. Again, another thing to help with your burnout as well too is something, and we will discuss this next month more, but is to set boundaries. Like for example, learn to say no, and when it is okay to say no to a task when it's assigned to you. You also want to protect your time and also kind of like have them respect your off. So you're only working 9 to 5. That's it. Don't expect an email from you back at 5:30 unless you're me in a nutcase. So, but again, learn how to set boundaries for something like this, what will help you with that burnout. Another thing as well to desk, simplify them. Sometimes when you're looking at that, and I do that a lot, I'm like, wow, it could have been simpler if I did it simply. So just take a look on that. And then you have your team, your coworkers there, and whatever. I'm pretty sure all of them have to ask you, can I do anything to help? If needed, ask them, hey, I'm asked to just get a report of this as well too. Can you just make sure the dates are right? Something about relying on each other. You guys, there's no I in team. Although I did find the I in the A, in the A thing. That's where I found the I. But work with each other, if you have to as well too. Another one, and this is one I need to listen to the most, is take breaks. Take your 10-minute times, take the time to walk around. If you work from home, go take a walk around and like throw a little laundry or whatever in there. Schedule some time to not stare at that computer. That's going to make you bright eyes as well. Um, this one's been very helpful for me, is to seek support. It's where I talk to some of my colleagues and friends. And I also talk to some people who are in the same kind of job role I'm in. And I kind of like to say, listen, this is going on. And sometimes, and I say, what would you do if you're in my situation? Just talking to someone else realize is helps. That's what I'm going to say is going to help. And then finally, it's kind of like reestablishing the recovery routines. So in other words, use the weekends, recharge. Don't work on your weekends. Take your vacation days, everything else as well too. You're allowed your lunch break. Don't work through your lunch breaks at all as well too. No matter how much you get, 30 minutes or an hour, take that full time. Even if it just you are watching YouTube, that's fine. It'll help you avoid the burnout that you're feeling with the project that's being assigned to you. Uh, And with that, coming up next, Laura's going to talk more about support and continuing education.
All right, thanks, Meg. So one thing I wanted to point out, a few people in the chat have been mentioning Ministry Scheduler Pro. That's a really great tool. I didn't get to use it in our parish. We have hosted a couple workshops with them on how to use it and how it works. If you go to our library, you'll find those workshops. I found it very helpful. And actually, Realm has come up a few times too. We used Realm. I loved it. I found it very hard to get usable reports out of it. It wasn't intuitive for me, but lots and lots of time on the phone with customer support helped quite a bit. I recommend using their tools. Um, their online learning tools and what have you. And we'll talk about that actually in a second. But I wanted to bring that up. And if you guys are interested in maybe a workshop with the people who run any of these other software, say Realm or Shelby Planning Center, whatever, especially church specific ones, just let me know. There'll be a survey that you can fill out at the end. And at the end of that survey, it says, what other topics would you like to see? Please fill the survey out and let us know so that I can schedule those because that's going to be me. Um, so I can work with Joe and get those scheduled and get them on our calendar. So, yeah, I appreciate you all mentioning that. It's great. Um, okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about was support and continuing education, which I know is ironic that it got placed here after burnout. Like I feel like I'm adding more in after we just talked about how to handle burnout, but so uh this workshop itself, right, is a form of support, right? So take advantage if you see people whose names or locations are familiar to you or nearby, reach out to them, right? They're going to be on the website. You can always reach out to myself or to Meg. Um, and I'll put my email in the chat if anyone wants to email, has a question. But one thing
Awesome.
I found that helps me with burnout is a lot of times it's not that I'm necessarily overwhelmed. Yes, I get overwhelmed. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes it's because I don't know something and I didn't realize I didn't know it. And so, and I'm regularly telling people I work with, you don't know what you don't know, you know. And so sometimes I'm using a tool and I'll go, oh, I didn't know it did that. So take some time to just learn about the tools you're using. Try to learn more about them. And I know this can be difficult while we're, my former parish administrator called it driving the bus while building the bus. So a lot of times you're doing the job while learning to do the job. YouTube. is my absolute favorite thing. There are times, and Google, there are times when, and I've done this when I know how to do it, and then suddenly my brain says, I don't remember how to do this. I just look it up. Um, there's a YouTube video, an app, or a Google search for everything. Um, and the best thing that I have found is to use Google to find the videos rather than going to YouTube itself. I know YouTube's owned by Google. I found the Google search engine will bring up videos better than the YouTube engine actual um in the actual app itself. But throw everything you can think of in that description, in that search bar. I am looking for a tool that will help me automate whatever. I am looking for a way to add email addresses to this program, but I only want to do it by hand, not automatically. Or I don't want Google Calendar to automatically set up Google Chats or workspaces. Just throw that out there and you'll get the answer that you want. Um, some other great places that I have used or that I have found is there's ASAP. They are an organization specifically for administrative support staff. They have classes, and you'll get a list of these resources and the links, by the way, so don't freak out. I have a list and all the links, and it'll tell you whether they are paid or whether they are free resources. ASAP has both. Coursera has both, although it's mostly paid. Same with Udemy. I'm currently taking a project management course with Coursera, and I'm doing a Salesforce class with Coursera because I just got put on, for redundancy's sake, to learn Salesforce. So now I'm doing that. Um, Fortunately, I know Realm, so a lot of it translates, right? So, and that's the other thing is when you get thrown a new task or a new software, you probably know a lot about it already. So, if you've used anything similar, it's probably very close, right? Salesforce, I was freaking out when I first found out I had to do it, and then looked and I'm like, "Oh, it's just fancy, more easily manipulated Excel sheets. I can do this." So, um, that's another thing that you have to kind of keep in mind is trust yourself. You know a lot more than you think you do. LinkedIn has a whole learning section. TechSoup is specifically for nonprofits, very similar to kind of that LinkedIn learning platform. And Udemy is almost exactly the same as Coursera. And I know with Coursera, I believe with Udemy, you can sign up for one class or you can do a subscription and do as many classes as you want at once. So I found that those are very helpful. And in a lot of those, like Coursera or Udemy, you can get certificates afterwards. So, like when I finish my project management class is run by Google. I will be certified with Google as a project manager. It looks nice on a resume. If you go with ASAP, there are certifications we'll talk about in a minute where you can become certified as an executive assistant. So those are some of the things you might want to know. And sometimes it's just a good booster for your ego to know, hey, I've gone through this, I know what I'm doing. So all right, so the next what we're going to talk about is Episcopal resources specifically. Um, Obviously, if you go through the Episcopal Church website and you'll see on the resources handout, they have a ton of resources. They have their manual of business practices. They have a folder where you can get the different shields, like the one I got on here. If you need their logo and you're doing some work with them or you want to mention them, that's where I got the shield from. They have all that stuff on their website for you to access. I didn't know this, and I don't know how many of you know this. They have that little orange lady with the glasses. That's Kathy. And there is a website called Ask Kathy, and it is the Episcopal Church AI engine. So it has anything you might need working with the Episcopal Church. For example, I went into Kathy and I said, "Hey, what resources does the Episcopal Church have for administrative support staff?" That's how I found out about the business manual. That's how I found out the links for the logos, or the shields. They have sermon prep in there. So if you're doing a sermon on a specific topic, I know most of us aren't doing it. I did do lay preaching, so so that's always in the back of my mind. But you can ask for information if you're looking for a specific information from the Book of Common Prayer for something you're putting together, an email or something. It's in there. Um, the Episcopal Preaching Foundation, where Meg is, they have um, they have a program that will a fellowship that will help you pay for continuing education specifically within the church. They do have one for lay leaders. They also have it for rectors and other clergy. The Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles, and I'll send you the link specifically to the page, has a very nice resource list. It's mostly for lay leadership in the church, kind of tending toward those lay ministers. But there's some great information on discernment because this is a calling. When when you do this work, you might not be standing up and preaching on Sunday. You might not be on the street necessarily, like handing out food or marching in the parade, but you made sure you knew which rector was going to be available that Sunday to preach. You made sure everybody knew when and where to meet for that parade. This is a calling and a vocation. So I highly recommend going through. It doesn't have to be a formal discernment. I don't even think the Episcopal Church or any other church, to be honest, has a formal discernment process for working in administrative staff. However, because it's a calling, I see it as a calling. Now, to be fair, some of us just need money. And this was a good job that came up, and it was in the church and it felt comfortable. That's fine. That is okay. But that just means it's your calling for now. And so I really liked their site. It had a lot of discernment tools and a lot of information for people who are in that administrative position. Um, and then obviously Episcopal Parish Network. You can come to workshops like these. For example, we are having a workshop about AI and Ask Kathy on June 23rd at 3 o'clock. So if you want to learn more about using AI and Ask Kathy, we've had two other AI workshops. If you look in our library, you can find those. So, and there'll be a link to the library in the chat in just a minute. Um, and then the third section I want to talk about is networking. Like I said, coming to these workshops, emailing each other on, when you see names or whatever you in the chat, that's a great form of networking. Episcopal Parish Network has a conference every year. Ask your parish if you can go. That we do have workshops for different levels of administration. To be honest and to be fair, most of our workshops are for clergy, administrators, or people working in finance, because that was the birthplace of Episcopal Parish Network. We had, but we used to be called SEEP, the Consortium of Endowed Episcopal Parishes, which, kind of sounds very up here, but we focused on parishes that had endowments and they needed to know how to manage those and that kind of a thing. We've now broadened our scope, so we are working with parishes of every size, every location, endowment, no endowment, high budget, low budget, however. So we have a lot more resources that are available and a lot more annual conference offerings. Our next annual conference is in March from the, oh, now my mind blanked. 3rd to the 6th. Peggy is in here, I think, so she can remind me.
I
Um,
think so.
I just blanked on it. I'll get there. But Trinity Church, they have uh, a program, a cohort for lay people, and you can apply to be part of the cohort. And it is an intensive study time. I think it's a 3-year program, but if someone else has done it, they can correct me. I believe it's 3, might be 2, but I think it's 3, where you go, you're in a group of about 20 to 25 people from around the world. You meet in person a couple times a year, and then you have studying outside of that. It's a fantastic group. Um, Church Pension Group has a lot of information on their site. Um, a lot of financial information, but there is other information for other people working um in other aspects of church administration. And then someone mentioned they were part of Episcopal Communicators on Facebook. They are fantastic. We have had um workshops with them as well. They mostly focus on things like sending mass emails, setting up your website so you have greater engagement, how to lay out bulletins, all that kind of information. It's fantastic. We've done workshops with them on effective communication. They are fantastic and they have a wealth of information on their website. So I highly recommend going to them. And then lastly, what do I have? I have a certification. That's what I have. I had it wrong on my notes. Certification. So when I was talking about ASAP before, the administrators support group, they have a certification process. It's called the PACE process. And basically you just prove that you know how to do your job. You have up to a year to complete it. It does cost money. I think it's almost $500. So I understand that it's not something that everybody can do, but it is a great way to, kind of give yourself that ego boost, that you know what you're doing and you're good at what you're doing. You can say you're PACE certified. So, and like I said, same thing happens with things like Coursera and Udemy. You can work your way through those as well. So, um, and you all have been great about putting stuff in the chat. I'm sure there are resources and other things we haven't heard anywhere, so or haven't covered or what have you. So please put those in the chat because we can add them. Like Meg said, we're doing another technology deep dive in August. So if there's more software or things like that you would like to see, let us know. So, and with that, we're getting close to the end. So if you guys have any additional questions. I know we've answered some things that have popped up in the chat. If I haven't answered them sufficiently, let me know and we will try again. But yeah, we're just so glad that you all are here. You all are a wealth of knowledge for us. I get so much out of um, hearing what you all have to do and have to say, talking with people at our conferences and things like that have been fantastic. So I get, and just Meg and I were working on this workshop together. Uh, I got a lot
Bad because
of
it was
information.
annoying.
Yeah, I
I
got,
really feel bad because it was so annoying to her, but she's like, no, you're doing your job. That's why.
yeah, exactly. That's what you're supposed to do. So, you know,
I saw a question there asking me if this is going to be recorded. Yes, it is. This will be recorded. We will send out the link with everything that's in the webinar chat aside as well
yes,
too down the road. So please just be patient. But yes, you will be getting a recording with the chat. So that's question number one I can answer.
there you go. Yeah. So, yeah, that will have the recording, but you'll also have like Meg just said, the chat, the resource list will be in there also. So you'll be able to see all of that. There'll be a link. So
Ooh, well, I'm going to let you take this one. This question is from Daniel saying, what are the biggest differences between an executive assistant and parish administrator? As a parish grows, the parish admin only staff to a lay support staff. What are some signs that parishes should be making this move? I'm
oh,
leaving that to you.
that's a really good question. So a lot of smaller parishes, they just have the parish administrator. And when I say just, I mean this poor person is doing all of it, right? They are kind of the head of HR. They are property management. They are handing out leaflets on Sunday that they put together on Thursday. That's a lot of parish administrators in smaller parishes are doing everything. I think once you start either hiring a lot of contract workers to start filling some of those other roles, like maybe you're contracting out your um leaflet production, or you're contracting out your social media management or your website management, then that's when you need to start looking at whether you need to have a separate parish administrator. A parish administrator is not managing the rector's schedule. They usually will have their own assistant. So that would be one difference. But if you like the parish I worked at before, the executive assistant there, they have one executive assistant, but she does all of the scheduling and meeting arrangements plus 50 other jobs that aren't under her executive assistant title, for the parish administrator and the rector. Once you're hitting lots of contract workers, or you start adding people in, maybe not a receptionist, because a lot of places will have a receptionist who's maybe volunteer if you're in a smaller parish. But once you start having people who are doing other tasks that the project manager's not doing, and those people have to be managed and coordinated, that's when you start needing to look at separating out, I think, the parish administrator versus an executive assistant or a stewardship coordinator or a communications coordinator. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of and there's a lot of overlap. There are a lot of parish administrators who they're technically the parish administrator, they manage like a staff. They have the sextons, and then they have the clergy staff, or they have the event staff or the music or whatever. But then they also, because you have a smaller budget, you only have maybe a social media person, and then you're doing a lot of it too. So like we said earlier, a lot of times what your title says and what you do are two completely different things. And so there are a few executive assistants out there who are actually parish administrators, especially for smaller churches. If they're the executive assistant to the rector, a lot of times they're also acting as the administrator hand in hand with the rector. So I hope that that makes some sense. But yeah, I think once you start adding more staff, more specialized staff that needs to be coordinated, that's when you have to start looking for a parish administrator. Um, and then I saw, oh, someone was asking about the next webinars in the series. So Meg, do you want to talk about that?
I do, and actually, that's why I was like digging around. Okay, so July 21st at 3 p.m. Eastern, where we have another webinar. This one is a roundtable webinar with a bunch of other admins, and where we ask the difficult questions, like what I asked about the burnout and everything else as well too, kind of like pick our brains. And then the third and final one with the technology part is going to be on the 18th. So
Yeah, August
yeah,
18th.
the 18th, August 18th. August 18th and July 21st are going to be in the next two webinar series. And of course, you'll be getting, we'll send email reminders about which is which as well too. Or I actually
Mhm.
highly encourage everyone to attend both, even if you think
Yeah, yeah.
continue learning. That's what I love doing, continue learning.
Yeah, yeah. So those will be helpful. I'm looking forward to the roundtable because we're going to be bringing in people from different levels. So there'll be people who work at a large parish, someone who works at a smaller parish, someone who works at the diocesan level with a bishop. And then Meg will be representing the kind of the nonprofit sector. I'll be there too. I'll be hosting. Again, you get to do multiple tasks. So I get to be a panelist and a host this time. I get to be the host next time. I might be on the panel. Meg gets to be on the panel and the host. So that's just kind of how it works. And then, so I'm really looking forward to that because there are subtle differences in how a large parish versus a small parish works. Or once you bump up to the diocesan level, what you're managing is a little different, and how you talk to the Episcopal Church main office changes, and you're going to have more contact, or you're going to be working with nonprofits more, that kind of a thing. So, um, I'm just going to scan the chat to see.
Desktop software tech. Leaving this report, we need an update. Tammy, can you do me a favor? Can you email me exactly more details about that too? because I can tell you that we've upgraded to QuickBooks Online, and we get it for a very, very good price on TechSoup. So just I'm going to type my email in there again. Just email me more, and then I can definitely probably help you with that one.
Yeah. And I just popped my email in there too. Um, and someone mentioned Venite. I love Venite. Um, they are a fantastic online source for things like bulletins. They also have already made um, uh, orders for worship for different, morning prayer or evening prayer, things like that. I love it. You can also just use it personally, which we used it a lot in COVID. So as a church, so I love Venite. They're great, and it's by Forward Movement, which
I
they.
think they're asking you to spell it out too.
Hmm?
They're asking you to spell out.
Oh,
Um,
Venite is or Venite, however you say that. Yeah, yeah. I never know how to spell or pronounce those things. That's the thing. When you like to learn by reading, you never know how to pronounce it. And hold on, I was looking for someone had mentioned something else and I want to see. Oh, Rite Aid is for the prayers of the people. Oh, nice. Look up Bible verses quickly, sometimes the visuals for the bulletins. Think one of our supply clergy uses it more. So that was from Carla Rose. That's great, Carla. Or Carla Rose, thank you for sharing that. That was really helpful. I was laughing before because I saw Caroline's comment. She said her new priest asked me for a job description when she came, and I said it would be easier to tell you what everyone else does, and if it's not covered by the rector, altar guild, vestry, music director, or preschool director, it's my job. So, yeah, I just went through that process too. Like I said, this is like my third job title. The executive director and I couldn't are having a hard time settling because I do a lot of different things. So, um, yeah, sometimes you just pick a title that people will kind of recognize and then just do what you do. That's just that's just how it happens. So, but you guys have been fantastic. You guys have some great questions. Again, like I said, if you have questions that we haven't addressed, or we have topics that we have not covered today, or that you don't think we're going to be covering in the next couple that you think you would like to hear about, let me know. Put it in the survey. We uh, our goal at EPN is to be where the church gathers and to address the ministry needs and support the ministry needs that you actually have. So, let me know what you would like to do. Let us know what you would like. And yeah, we would love to do that with you. Um, if there's any other questions, I don't know if you have any more. We've covered a lot, so this is a lot. Sorry, I'm distracted because, like I said, I'm also hosting. I'm also the person putting all these things in the chat, and I have another thing I'm supposed to copy and paste, and it's not working. So, um, it basically says, "Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it."
because it was me, that was my responsibility.
Yeah. But thank you all so much. And to also check out, we have on our website, you can see upcoming workshops, you can see past workshops, anything that you all might be interested in the administrative section. We do have a whole administrative section on our website, but we also have things for the different roles, communications, um, and what else? My mind is blanking right now. Communications, technology, finances. So whatever you do at your church, then or your organization, we've got you covered. So please let us know how we can support you. We are so happy to have all of you here, and we hope that this becomes a group that supports one another. And we really appreciate it. And I really appreciate Meg and her support and encouragement in getting this together. She's been instrumental in that, and I'm very thankful for that. So,
And I thank you as well to Laura and Joe Schwimmer for inviting me to be a part of this. I was very honored. I thought you were kidding. I was getting ready to be, with a little kid, and there's a dollar bill you're chasing and someone's dragging it away. But I realized, oh no, they really want me.
No,
But I
we are
really
so thankful for
appreciate.
you. We've been
Oh,
partners.
I'm very grateful for you two guys as well too. And then like not only that too, but I learned a lot more too. That's the greatest thing. So I enjoy doing this stuff with you guys as well too. And I'm looking forward to talking to any one of you guys as well too. Just hey, even if it's something's like, yo, Meg, I had a bad idea. You want to talk about some good-looking guy
Yeah.
named Pedro Pascal, my
Yeah,
future husband, by the way,
yeah, if
stuff
you
like
mention
that.
Pedro Pascal to Meg, you can get her to answer any question you need. So, but thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. We're just past 4, so I know we all have things we have to get back to. So have a great day, and I hope we're going to see you on July 21st or at another workshop. Thanks.